Sitting up here with 39 years of NFL experience for an authentic, a vulnerable, a transparent, and a raw conversation on the seriousness of the NFL. I don't believe there will be a more well-thought-out conversation about Tua Tagovailoa than you are about to see, witness, and experience over the next 15 to 20 minutes and throughout the course of the show. Thank you for being here with us. Every now and then in the facility, you got to change the vibes up, and this is one of those very, very important moments. Chase, you played quarterback for 14 years in the NFL. We're talking about a quarterback that I believe is on his fourth or fifth season in the National Football League. Again, without going off script here, Shady, Eagles' all-time leading rusher. He obviously played in the NFL for 12 years. James Jones on the far end, Super Bowl champ. He played in the NFL for 9 years. A lot of NFL experience here having this so intense and intentional conversation. I personally can't wait to hear what's going to be said. I hope you all feel the same way. Chase, starting with you, should Tua consider retiring? A heavy question I just asked you. A heavy question I just asked you. We all had to make that decision up here, which is what I love about this show. We all had to make that decision, so I don't take your words lightly. Should Tua consider retiring?
Yes. Yeah. And that's an easy thing to say today, though. Every talk show in America or sports show is saying, yes, he should retire. Rightfully so, right? But this is more of a humanity issue, man. Like the human being in Tua, right? He has a family, he's married, he has 2 kids. But that's, to say he should retire is such an easy take because Tua doesn't view it like that. I'm gonna take you back to 2019. The last QB we saw walk away from the prime of his career, Andrew Luck. 2019, I was on the sideline, Chicago Bears preseason game, when Andrew Luck, during the game, Adam Schefter tweeted, Andrew Luck is retiring. I will always remember, I am literally on the field about to take a snap. The crowd goes silent while we're playing a game. And we come off, I'm like, did we do something bad? Like, what's happening? And we found out on the sideline that day that one of the greatest, really, careers to that point, and Andrew Luck, walked away. He walked away for his health. This Tua situation, to me, it reminds me of that Andrew Luck situation. It's way more about football, right? You got to imagine what's going through Tua's head. Tua, in his mind, is thinking, hey, I still want to play. He talked about it openly in 2023, right? Everyone and their mom is probably coming at him saying, hey, you need to retire. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's much more difficult as a football player when you breathe and you live football, specifically from a quarterback perspective. He just got paid. He wants to be out there to lead his team. 2022, that's when the concussion started. He had one back in 2019 as well in Bama. And in 2023, he talked about openly, I train my body to not get concussions. He went through 2023, no concussions. And then he gets one last night, and I was putting my daughter to bed, my 3-year-old daughter, Ashton. And my wife comes in. She knew how serious it was because we were watching the game. I was like, I want to put my daughter to bed. They were getting blown out. And my wife says, hey, like, I think you really need to go back in because you guys are going to talk about this tomorrow. Tua is like lifeless on the field. I took off in a sprint because I didn't know what happened. And I watched the replay, and the first thought to my head goes, man, Tua, you have a really difficult decision. It's so easy to say he can retire, but to actually go about the steps that you need to take to do that, that's a different discussion.
Yeah, that's tough, man. Last time Tua had concussions, we all talked about it. And I actually said I think he should retire. And, when we play this game, because we love this game, right? Tua's been playing it since he's been a kid, right? You've seen the 30 for 30s they had on him and talked about this high school and everything. He went to Alabama and et cetera, goes to the NFL. And you get to this point where you dream of playing in the NFL. And, like, the fans, they look at this as a sport, right? And we look at this as our livelihood. When I look at Tua on that field, first of all, he's only 26 years old, right? Mm-hmm. And when I had a chance to play at a high level, right, and then it came to a time where, do I retire or do I keep playing? And I didn't want to continue the route of being like a backup. So I said, I'm going to lead this game. And it was hard, right? I didn't have no injuries. It was hardest to lead a game. But when I look at Tua's situation, it may be hard for him, but you got so much life to live after football. And that's what, as players, we don't think about that.
Yeah.
When I was retiring, I didn't think of, well, I'm only retiring at 33 years old. I'm going to have so much life to live. And now that I'm on TV, I'm like, yo, I spent so much time playing football that I didn't even realize that after football, my life is not over.
Yeah.
And you kind of feel like that until you retire. And I think with Tua, he has to think about his family. He got 2 kids, and he's married. You know, Tua's a neighbor of mine, right? In Florida, he's a neighbor. So I was seeing him running and training, not training, but running around and getting some cardio and everything. And he's a good dude, right? Super spiritual. I just think that we look at this game like this is the only thing we have, and that's not the case, right? Money's part of it. I hate when people act like money's not part of it. Money's part of it. And he has that part secure, right? You have your family, that's secure. I think with this football thing, he needs to take time because this is not an ACL. This is not an Achilles. This is not a shoulder or a thumb. This is your brain. You tear ACL, you can strip that thing back up to be a little bit stronger. Achilles, we see Aaron Rodgers, okay, is getting stronger, and he can play. When you talk about your head, you only get one brain, you only get one head.
Well said.
Right?
Well said.
So my thing going forward, I really think that family and friends around him, let's take the football part out of it because that's only a sport, right? That's a small part of your life. The family, everything, and living with your children, taking them to school. You talked about putting your daughter to bed. Like, all them things matter. And I think he should really take some serious time. Because in the football world, just being honest, and I hate to say this, but it's a business, right? And the Dolphins, I know they care about Tua, but the business part of it is, we need our team to win. We need our team to sell tickets. We need our best quarterback to play in this game, right? Because they might, I'm not saying they're going to rush him, but if he can play, they're going to let him play. I think Tua should really take some time to think about this because it's a big moment in his life.
This is tough for me. I said it yesterday on social media, fellas, being honest. I've been very transparent because I got my brothers here to my left, to my right. So it's easy for me as it pertains to being transparent. The conversation's tough for me. In 2015, Adrian Robinson, he was a 26-year-old linebacker. He committed suicide. He committed suicide.
He's from my high school. It's Robinson. He went to my high school, and he went to Temple.
Yes, exactly right. He was on the Eagles as a backup linebacker in 2013. That's where I met him. I was on the Eagles as a backup linebacker in 2013. 2 years later, it's 2015. I'm at a Pep Boys in South Philadelphia. Shady probably knows in South Philadelphia. I didn't realize at the time, well, what's he doing in South Philadelphia? He's no longer on the Eagles. Well, he went to Temple. And so that was his home base. I saw 2 weeks after I saw him at a Pep Boys, he committed suicide, and he was found to have chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. He was 26. After I leave the NFL after 4 years, your vested pension with annuity, I said, you know what, Acho, you're never going to be an all-time leader like Shady McCoy. You'll probably never be a Super Bowl champ like Chase Daniel or James Jones. So I made the decision to stop trying to pursue a backup role and get out of football. It's a tough decision, but a decision I made because I started to know so much about the brain health. I pursued my master's in sports psychology and started working with a neuroscientist who I talked to yesterday about this conversation regarding Tua. Tua has to consider retiring. And I would go as far as to say Tua should retire. Not for Tua, but for Tua's spouse, for Tua's children. I think his oldest maybe just turned 2 a week or so ago. For Tua's parents. Tua not just should consider retiring. I would suggest that Tua should retire because Tua can't just look through the keyhole of his NFL career. He has to open up the door and look at his life. He has to look with all of his eyes and see what's still out there for him. It's been much easier to say for me sitting in this chair, but as somebody who has spent years researching the brain and traumatic brain injuries, when you think about a concussion, that's just about as bad as it gets. But there are a lot more sub-level blows that incur when you have TBI, traumatic brain injuries, or when you have any sort of head trauma. When you see the fencing position when the arms get stuck, that's just a sign of a traumatic brain injury. So when I think about Tua and the position that he's currently in, it's not about Tua. And it's no longer about Tua for me. Now it's about his loved ones. It's about moms. It's about pops. It's about spouse. It's about the kids. That is where I suggest Tua should consider when he makes this decision.
Whoo-wee. Yeah, man, this is tough because I'm just thinking back, man, when I was a little kid, man, all I wanted to do was make it to the National Football League, right? You two know my life story growing up homeless. I just wanted to make it to the National Football League to make sure my family was good, right? We spend our whole life training, preparing, trying to get to this moment. And then just to walk away from this game in our prime, that takes guts. That's an extremely hard decision to make, whatever injury you are battling with. So I know Tua, this is going to be an extremely tough decision for him, for his family. It's a lot of stuff that he has to, figure out. in this decision. But what I will say is, when I retired, right? Because when we retire, we don't never think we done. I don't care if it's year 15. I don't care if it's year 4. I don't care if it's year 7. We always think, man, I got one more year, right? That's just how we're built as athletes. But when I retired and I announced my retirement, I remember clear as day, my wife said, thank God I can relax now.
Wow.
She told me that. Wow. She was like, every single game, I was on the edge of my seat. I didn't know. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't care if you had 2 catches. I didn't care if you had 100 catches in the game. I just cared you getting out of that thing healthy, right? The best part about the game, she told me, was when it was a away game, I seen you by the bus, and you was walking over. No, for real, though. So when she told me that, I'm like, dang, like, you don't know how much you mean to other people. Yeah. So with you having this head injury and you saying Tua's good, your wife might not be good with this decision, right? Your kids ain't old enough to tell you, hey, Daddy, I don't think you should go out there. So you got to make sure that you put all this stuff in play, right, before Tua takes himself back out there on the field, right? Because this is about your life. Like Shady said, this ain't no ACL. This ain't no Achilles. This ain't a hamstring, whatever it may be. Like, this is your head. This is about your life. This can mess around and mess Tua up when Tua's 40. Yeah. When Tua's 45. So you really got to go out there and you got to consider retiring, hanging it up. And I know it is a hard decision because you are extremely young and football's something you love to do. That's all understandable. Take your time, right? Put all things in consideration and make your decision from there. But I definitely think he should consider retiring.
And as we talk about concussions, right? So I was blessed to only have about 2 concussions that's from high school to college to pros, right? And I played running back. We get in every play. And then when I watched Tua play this game, right? Even last year, every type of tackle, I'm concerned for Tua because his hits is not like boom hits, right? It's him falling back, boom, hit his head on the ground, and it happens so much in football that it becomes normal, right? But with him, he's getting all these concussions. And I was thinking about let's say that he could play through these things, right? He could play through this concussion. He comes back, right? He comes back, and the Miami, everybody's happy. He's playing some good games. 4, 5, 6 games, he's still no concussion. But then it might be that 7th game where he's dropping back, and it don't take a lot of hard hits because if you really watch this one, there was no helmet to helmet. Yeah. He lowered himself, right? And he actually hit his arm and his shoulder. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is, every time Tua gets into some type of contact, there's always a chance that he might get a concussion.
Let me, this is a good conversation, a hard conversation. Let me say this, Colvin, let's see, we can see the jib. We've seen the play. Tua ran into the one defender in the National Football League that didn't want to hit him, and he still got a concussion. Damar Hamlin, if there is any player in the National Football League that did not want to deliver a devastating blow, it's Damar Hamlin. Hence why Damar Hamlin didn't even lead with his head. Damar Hamlin, to some degree, caught Tua. He kind of cradled Tua as you would a baby. Tua hit Damar Hamlin's bicep and was concussed. So I don't think it's fair to Tua to continue playing because now, Tua, you have to put yourself ahead of the team. Yeah. In football, we always put the team ahead of ourselves. Tua put the team ahead of himself. That's why I think it was the 3rd or 4th down. He wanted to pick up the 4th down. Tua can't make that decision anymore. Mm-hmm. Now, defenders, if you have a heart as it pertains to a person off of a football field, you can't hit the offensive player like you want to hit the offensive player. Because if you're a defender, and I've been in this situation before, and you see Tua running at you, what do? You can't deliver a blow like you would normally deliver a blow, because if you deliver the blow like you normally deliver the blow, the individual might not get up and walk off the football field. And the players that I know don't necessarily want to see that happen. So it's not fair to the defenders going up against Tua because you can't play the game of football as you've been taught or coached. It's not fair to Tua because he would quite literally have to undermine rule number 1 of football, which is put the team before yourself. It's not fair to the fan base because every time they are watching, now they're holding their breath. It's not fair to the family because, as James Jones just alluded to, every time Tua's loved ones are watching, they're nervous to just see him walk off the field. I don't think it's fair to anybody that Tua continue playing, most importantly, Tua.
It's a fascinating situation, sort of what you were talking about, and it's going to be a really heavily criticized situation going forward, whether or not Tua is going to step onto the field. And, you know, the Miami Dolphins will have a say in that, but eventually he's got to talk to his own family. He's got to get a second opinion and a third opinion. he's got to talk to some of his close teammates and really think about what's best for them. So often, and we don't like to talk about it a lot, but so often in the NFL, we as players, I've never dealt with a huge injury, we're pushed to play by the NFL team. And let's just remember that most training staffs are all right, right? But there is a disconnect between most training staffs in the NFL and players because their only job is to get these players, really star players, back onto that football field.
1,000%.
And so there's a disconnect with that because that's why these guys are getting second and third opinions. Like, let's remember that the first one that he had in 2022, it led to widespread changes in NFL concussion protocol when he got up wobbling against the Bills and he continued to play and then he got a concussion that next week. That widespread change, it was in effect when I was on the field with Justin Herbert in the 49ers weeks later. Justin Herbert got hit, smacked, he got up a little bit funky. They pulled him out of the game. Like, it wasn't even that bad. They pulled him out of the game. I had to play the rest of the first half. And then he eventually got cleared. But we're making steps in the right direction because 6 minutes after that concussion was had, they ruled him out for the game. Much better than the first one in 2022. So there are steps being made in the right direction, but the disconnect still remains between the player and the training staff.
You know, I'm just, it's crazy because, you know, I brought up that comment about my wife, but if I was in this situation, I truly believe deep down my wife would have said to me, number one, it's time to be done. But number two, how many more? Like, is it going to take one more for you to say I'm done? Yep. Is it going to take two more for you to say I'm done? Like, at one point, we can't sit here and you have 3 more concussions and then you say I'm done. So that's why I think you really need to really sit down and you really need to consider this because how many more? Because to be honest with you, that wasn't even a hard hit. So, like, the softest hits right now is causing Tua to get a concussion, right? You play the quarterback spot. Some of these hits you are not going to be able to see. So, is it going to be the next hit to where you're going to say, okay, I think that's it? Or is it going to be the next one? So that's why I think he really needs to sit down. He really needs to consider this because I don't necessarily think he needs to take another one, in my humble opinion. I don't want to see him take another one. Shady's up here, and he's a solid neighbor of Tua, and he worried when Tua get hit. Could you imagine his family members and his wife and how they feeling if we up here like, ooh, Tua, you know what I'm saying? So
And the team, right? As much as we keep talking about Tua, what about the team? Like, what should show about your franchise that you keep putting this player out there and he keeps getting concussion after concussion after concussion, right? At some point, you gotta, hey, look, man.
You gotta protect him.
I gotta protect you from your own self. Because we are, it's like we are gladiators. Like, and like, you know, we had a fun yesterday talking about like taking yourself out the game, which normally we wouldn't do, right? But now at this point, when you messing with your head, right? I think it's time for the Dolphins. Hey, look, man, shut the whole season down, bro, right? Because I can't afford not only you to hurt yourself, but you to hurt this franchise because we'll look bad if we keep putting you out there and you're not 100%.
And, you know, I'm loving this conversation. The hardest thing and the hardest part, I don't know if anybody's talking about, is Tua doesn't know how to protect himself. And that became apparent yesterday. Tua, you know better than anybody in the world, Shady, Chase, James, myself, and you watching, you cannot lead with your head. You know that, Tua. But in the heat of battle, he made the decision to lead with his head. The most valuable asset that Tua possesses is his head, and that's also the one that's currently most fragile. And in the heat of battle, he forgot the one thing that he cannot forget under any circumstance. And that is why, to me, someone has to supersede and protect him. I think it has to be the organization or it has to be the NFL because we all know Tua. Really, what I wanted y'all to hear was that's the opponent. Shady, you know Deion Dawkins well. That's the opponent. The opponent is saying he was watching Tua saying, slide, bro, slide, bro, slide, bro, slide, bro. I was watching the game. It was a blowout, but I was watching the game, and I'm sitting there like, Tua, slide. Like, slide, like, slide, slide, slide. Like, Tua, please. And then as soon as he took the hit, I was like, so if the opponent, Shady, if the opponent is saying to themselves as Tua's running, hey, bro, just slide, just slide, just slide. But Tua didn't have the cognition there because he's such a competitor. And I applaud him for that. Yeah. But he's such a competitor. And I'll share this one quick story before we pivot. we were playing against the Oakland Raiders. It was Oakland at the time. Shady and I were teammates. It was the 2013 season, I believe. I'm a special teams player. Another special teams player, the opponent, Kaluka Maiava, was a linebacker on the Raiders. He played with me in Cleveland. So I have a kill shot that I can take. A kill shot in football is if somebody don't see you coming and you come, I have a kill shot. I mean, I'm looking at Kaluka and he's not looking at me. It's special teams. I'm like, oh, I got him lined up. But I saw the jersey number. I said, oh, that's my dog. I said, oh, I'm not taking a shot.
Really?
Again, y'all know me. Y'all can call me soft, all things. Y'all know me. I'm not the hardest football player in the world, with all due respect. I do well outside of football. But in the moment, I'm like, I'm not taking the shot. That's my dog. Like, I was with him for a whole year in Cleveland as a rookie. He was a vet. I said, I'm not taking the shot.
Was you, like, trying to grab him?
So I said, I'm going to block him, but I'm not going to kill shot him. I'm not going to try to end him. I'm just going to block him. I tried to get out of the way. We're running towards the end zone. I turn around. He's on the ground. I said, what? He, like, broke his rib or something. I said, I wasn't even trying to take the shot. Oh, man. And you still end up going on IR with, like, a broken rib. I say that to say, like, there are football players, because I've been in the situation where looking at somebody, knowing the harm you can inflict on them, but you choose to not inflict the harm. And that, I think, is what Damar Hamlin, the situation he was in. That's why Deion Dockham says, slide, bro, slide. Damar Hamlin, I can only imagine, is running towards Tua like, bro.
He already had the first down.
Come on, bro.
He already had the first down.
Like, bro, I'm not even trying to do this. I'm not, like, don't make me do it. Bro, Damar cradled him. Like, he didn't even hit him. He caught him.
And the thing with Tua is, like, he's on offense, so defenders are always trying to tackle you, right? I'm a running back, so I know that. But there's always where you can protect yourself.
No
like, when you watch Lamar Jackson, when them dudes coming at him, he dives forward, where you're not going to give it hit me in my head or hit me in my side. You're going to grab my legs, right? With Tua's issue, and I've been watching him, is he can't protect himself because when he's getting tackled, getting sacked, right? Maybe it might be they throwing him down, right? Normal routine sack. But now he hitting his head on the ground. Now he has concussion, right? Okay, fast forward to last night. He's scrambling, has the first down, right? Damar's waiting on him. Instead of going into him, now check this out. He runs right into him. Yo, you got the first down. Dive down low to the left. If you do that, there's no contact. So what I'm saying about Tua is why I think he should retire is because he can't protect himself from light contact. So imagine when a hard hit's coming. What's he going to do?
Let's remember, too, you guys, because I was quarterback 14 years, right? And most franchises teach you how to slide. And let's remember that the NFL changed the rule a couple of years ago. Well, let's just talk about the old rule about sliding, because this plays into what we're talking about right now. When you used to go feet first, okay, when you start a slide, you were down where you start your slide feet first. Yeah. It used to be, and they changed it, where if you went head first, you would get the yards you dove until you were touched. They changed it for this exact reason. Now, if you dive head first or you slide feet first, you are down where you start the slide. Like, I'm not saying it's not being taught down there because it's well known, but in the moment, he's a competitor, he wants to do that. But quarterbacks, remember that. Wherever you start your slide, no matter if you're feet first or head first, you're down. Yeah. So go feet first. Go early.
And I will say this, man, because this just came to mind right now. Nick Collins was a safety for the Green Bay Packers. Yep. He would have walked into the Hall of Fame, the track he was on. He's in the Packers Hall of Fame right now. Excellent safety. Messed his neck up, right? I remember I came back one late night, sit in the sauna, do some recovery and all that. Coach Mike was in the sauna, right? We started talking about Nick Collins. Nick, at this time, was not cleared to play, right? And Coach Mike was in all these meetings with the doctors and Nick and all that, and they said, man, listen, he's going to get cleared to play, right, with his neck. The doctors asked Coach Mike, if Nick Collins was your son, would you put him out there? And Coach Mike said, no, I would not put him out there if that was my son, right? And from
if he wasn't cleared.
Even if he was cleared.
It was that bad.
Because the doctors told Coach Mike, he's going to get cleared, right? Everything's coming back positive for his neck. He's going to get cleared to play. If it was your son with this neck injury, even though he's cleared, would you put him out there? Coach Mike said, no, I would not put my son out there with a neck injury if he was cleared, right? Later on, the Packers released Nick Collins. Nick Collins never played a down. Could have been a Hall of Fame career. But at that point, Coach Mike had to protect Nick Collins from himself. Nick still wanted to play. If Coach Mike would have said yes, Nick would have still been playing for the Green Bay Packers. But at one point, I think in this situation, and you brought it up, Shady, he ain't protecting himself out there. And if you're not protecting yourself out there as an organization and as a team, we have to protect you for your health of the future. We got to. And I respect Coach Mike for that.
What up, YouTube family? Welcome to the facility. Thanks for watching, and you better be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to get more highlights from the show and all of our exclusive content.